Now, ultimately, with every, competition, race, game, sport, political campaign, there's a winning side and there's a losing side. And a lot of times you find out the content of the character of the losing side based off of how they handle the loss. Now, you could sit there and figure out the root reason, the real reasons why you lost. Look at what the opponent did better than you, look at your own failures, figure out how to take those weaknesses that you have, turn them into strengths, or become better at what the other side does than even they are, and turn that failure into a success. Now, unfortunately, I've heard over the past couple of days a lot of excuse making made by the right wing and by conservatives and by Republicans. Some get it, a lot don't. And all this excuse making about liberal media bias or President Obama winning because he's a black candidate or talking about Obama and all the nasty smear ads that he ran. Well, let's touch on this in reverse. First of all, the dirty politicking. Both sides did that, and most people with a brain will admit to that. You don't get to sit there and complain and piss and moan about it when you did it yourself just because you lost. It's like you both agreed to the rules of the game and now you don't like the rules because you lost. That's baloney. President Obama only winning because he's a black candidate. I'm sure millions upon millions of black females and black males in this country would find it to be news to them that their skin color is an advantage and not a disadvantage. So to sit there and tell me that President Obama won in large part because he was a black candidate this time around, I find quite preposterous. And then talking about the liberal media bias. Is there a liberal media bias by and large? Yes. I don't dispute that. But did that help Al Gore in 2000, John Kerry in 2004, Michael Dukakis in 1988, Walter Mondale in 84, Carter in 1980? No. It's this type of excuse making that takes the eye off the ball. That every day that you focus on this type of excuse making cost you a day of actually identifying the problem and figuring out solutions to the actual real problem. You would have thought after 2008, when a lot of excuses were made, that the GOP would have wisened up and said, we need to figure out what really happened and adjust our strategy and game plan heading into 2012. This is what I don't understand. A lot of the crap you did in 2008 that didn't work, you did again in 2012, and guess what? It didn't work, and now you're surprised about it, and you're making excuses about it. It's ridiculous. The GOP ultimately has nobody to blame but themselves for Governor Romney losing in 2012. But I'm going to offer you here in the rest of this video are some specific reasons why I feel Barack Obama was able to win re-election, even with an approval rating hovering around 50%. And some of the real reasons, not excuses, but real reasons that I feel Governor Romney's campaign ultimately was unsuccessful in this 2012 election cycle. And I'm going to start off by taking a look at President Obama's campaign. Some of you that are watching this video may have a lot to say negatively about Barack Obama's job performance as President of the United States, and that's understandable. But the one thing you can't knock is his performance on the campaign trail, and you definitely cannot knock the campaign team and the machine supporting Barack Obama, the candidate, because yet again they showed that they were far superior to anything that the GOP could trot out there. It can't even really be argued. This type of formula is going to be taught in political science classes for years down the road for the genius of it and how ahead of the times it was and how great it was for the times that it was in. There were several things that I thought President Obama and the machine behind him were able to effectively do that ultimately led to Obama winning another 4 years in office. First and foremost, while Governor Romney was sitting there still trying to win the GOP nomination, they were able to spend a lot of money and a lot of effort and time in battleground and swing states and define President Obama and his mission the way they wanted to, and ultimately define Governor Romney as out of touch and elitist, somebody who favored the wealthy as opposed to the poor and middle class. And by the time Governor Romney tried to get some traction in this area in the late summer and early fall of this year, the damage had already been done. He wasn't going to be able to climb that mountain no matter what. The Obama machine really understood the changing demographics of the electorate and the continuing changing demographics of the electorate. It's like the GOP believes that, old white people and white males are going to be the ones that carry the day. And for the second time now, they have clearly had that proven to them that that is not the case. Obama's machine has really built what you would call an Obama coalition of young voters, of women, of black voters, of Hispanic voters. I mean, black voters broke 95% for Obama this time. Hispanics, 71%. Women, 55%. It's not incredibly difficult to see dominating some of those demographics. This Obama coalition has been really effective, and part of the reason why Obama is a two-term president. The Obama machine really, and this carries over again from 2008, really had a superior ground and get out the vote operation, especially in the swing states, the battleground states, that was there from 4 years ago and never left the state. Again, another advantage for an incumbent president. He already had that infrastructure in place and was able to just simply build upon it, was able to maintain a presence for 4 years. Believe me, I know. I live in Iowa, one of those battleground swing states. I knew no matter what anybody in the national media was trying to fill your head with, that Iowa wasn't going to do anything than go for Obama this time by a pretty sizable margin, which it ended up doing because of the superior ground operation here, the get out the vote operation, the ability to get new voters registered as Democrats, again, to be part of that new Obama coalition. His campaign machine, again, was very ahead of the times, this time with the early voting, emphasizing that early voting, getting people to the polls in September, in the middle of October, so that way if there was any late October, early November surprise, you already had their votes in your back pocket. And whatever, could happen on Election Day, you were going to be staked out in most of these battleground and swing states to a good, or in some cases, a very sizable lead that was going to be incredibly difficult for the GOP to overcome. And that's exactly what happened. It was very visionary to be so much about that early vote. Why wait until November 6th? Why not go out there and do it September 27th or October 5th? There was still really a built-in advantage and still some political capital left over from 2008. I mean, you look at the number of states that President Obama was able to take from red to blue in 2008. He only lost 2 of them in 2012. That's Indiana and North Carolina. In order for Governor Romney to have been able to win the presidency, they were going to have to take several of these states that Obama turned them back. And again, with an incumbent president, that could be very hard to do. But when all else fails, and you get to the closing weeks of the campaign, you need that little cherry on the top of the sundae, the icing on the cake. And this really started at the Democratic National Convention. It was when Bill Clinton, I felt, did a better job of giving President Obama's campaign a mission and defining President Obama than, quite frankly, President Obama was able to do with his speech at the DNC. And when you have that level of a surrogate and a popular president who enjoys an approval rating at this day of over 65%, and he's out there in these battleground states making campaign stops and doing TV ads where he's sitting there and he's comparing you to himself, where he's saying, remember when they used to say some of these same scary things about me? You remember how my second 4 years went? Yeah, remember that when you go to the polls. President Obama's doing a lot of the right things. I support him, so should you. When you have Bill Clinton doing this for you, when he's making sweet visual love to millions and millions of men and women who are watching him on TV or are going to these campaign stops to see him, you can't tell me that Bill Clinton didn't do a lot to help seal the deal for President Obama, something that Obama really didn't have at nearly the same level 4 years ago when, the president was still holding some lingering resentment towards Hillary losing in the campaign. Well, 2012, now it's potentially about, setting up Hillary well for 2016. Obama's the established president. You want to be the good soldier, and you want people to be able to look kindly upon your wife in 4 years. That was such an awesome advantage, really, for the Obama campaign to have. And I don't think it's gotten credit nearly the amount that it deserves. If you really think about it, with all the other things I mentioned, he had Bill Clinton on his side. It was going to be really hard for Governor Romney and the machine behind him to be able to counterbalance that. Now, for every winner, there's a loser, and for as many good things as President Obama's campaign and the Obama machine supporting him did to help him win re-election, you can look and see just as many problems or potential which you might label as mistakes, that Governor Romney and his campaign and the machine supporting him made in this 2012 presidential election. First and foremost, I look at the candidate himself. And one label that he got, appropriately so, if John Kerry got it well-deserved in 2004, Mitt Romney definitely deserved it in 2012. He got that label of flip-flopper. And I think part of the problem for Governor Romney was he felt he had to run more to the far right in the primaries to win the nomination, and then he was trying to go back to the center to appeal to moderates and independents, which was necessary. And the problem was he kept vacillating between the two, and you never really got much of a beat on who Mitt Romney really was. You felt like 1 month he was giving a view on this issue, and then 3 months later you might come back and he's changed his view on it. It's like, are you running towards the center? Are you running towards the far right? And it's that lack of identity really as a candidate, and that constant fear of always having to appeal to the damn far right base that I think was a major obstacle to Romney becoming the next president of the United States. It was the lack of specifics for a generic overused message, the thing about less regulation, even though not specifically mentioning regulations, talking about Obamacare and how it's going to cripple the economy, but again, not offering specifics or specific solutions that are more effective, talking about taxation, when you're talking about fiscal responsibility, even though lowering taxes and increasing military spending clearly would be a repeat of policies under Reagan and Bush 43 that led to, in both cases, administrations at the time, record budget deficits. But again, more so, it was the general, generic, bland, overused message that conservative candidates use every 4 years, and it's not registering anymore. And that really hurt Governor Romney. White evangelicals, like I didn't think they would, they did not turn out in great mass to support a Mormon candidate. And this was going to be a problem with Mitt Romney at the top of the GOP ticket. Not a lot of people wanted to talk about it. But Karl Rove, I will give him this. From a GOP campaign strategist, was a genius. He took a look at George W. Bush in 2000 and in particular in 2004 and realized the only shot he had of winning was dividing the electorate as much as possible, making it as much about God and values and morals and family, and really turning out in great numbers white evangelical Christians for his candidate. You saw that happen in 2000, and you really saw that happen in the race against John Kerry in 2004. Well, millions of registered Republicans sat this election out. And who were a lot of those registered Republicans? White evangelical Christians. So there was yet another part of the voting bloc that Romney just wasn't going to be able to appeal to in mass, no matter what he did. This campaign was really behind the 8 ball on the get out the vote, the getting more voters registered, really behind on the early voting, importance compared to the Obama campaign. The Romney campaign, once they got going in the late summer and early fall, I thought was doing a lot of things to try and correct their previous mistakes, but they just had made too many mistakes. And more importantly, the mistakes, it was too much time had elapsed, and by the time they tried to catch up to the 8 ball, it had already kind of run them over. And last, and maybe most importantly, in that closing stretch where you have all these ads and you have all these appearances and all these campaign stops and all these debates and speeches and conventions and every damn thing else, it helps to have that nice little surrogate or cheerleader to help kind of put you over the top. Barack Obama had that in Bill Clinton. Who in the blue hell was Governor Romney supposed to turn to as an effective top surrogate for the conservative voice, for the GOP, for Governor Romney himself? Who? He sure as hell couldn't turn to a George W. Bush, who still has a horribly low approval rating in this country. President Reagan's dead. I hate to put that so crassly, but he is. And who else out there? He sure as hell not going to have a John McCain going out there and being a great big cheerleader for him, nor would he probably want him, because McCain got his ass stomped 4 years ago by Obama. The bottom line is, in those last couple of weeks, when he could have really used a top surrogate, a conservative or Republican voice that had mass appeal to both Republicans, independents, moderates, Democrats, what have you, Governor Romney was kind of left flapping in the wind whereas Bill Clinton was making sweet visual love to millions of undecided voters in swing states on behalf of President Barack Obama. And that's kind of what I think about some of the reasons why President Obama was able to win re-election and why Governor Romney ultimately lost. Sure, there are other smaller things. Some of the excuses I've heard, the GOP needs to kick those the fuck out of the way. Because if you don't address some of these core problems that manifested themselves again in 2012, just like they did in 2008, it could be a long time potentially before you see another viable GOP candidate with a real chance at winning the presidency of the United States. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about why the Republican Party sucks today, why it's lost its way, and how ultimately it can kick itself out of its doldrums before the party ends up dying a slow and cancerous death, which it may very well already be on the path to today. Let me know down below some of the reasons you think why Barack Obama won re-election and why you think Governor Mitt Romney lost in his bid to become president of the United States.